crutches can be great. They can be a help. They can teach you and help you during that recovery period. But when you become dependent upon them, that's when it becomes a problem. We think of, okay, for crutches, and I know several in here, Margie come up to me after the first service and says, do you mean I can get rid of my walker? I says, hold on, Margie. Sometimes we need those to help support us. And there's nothing wrong with that. Knowing that they're there as just a support, but knowing also that we need to look elsewhere. But there's also crutches in our lives that we don't think of as much. There's alcohol, there's drugs, sex, TV, electronic devices. People, that's their way out of dealing with stresses. They rely on these things that people will indulge and dive into to take their focus off of the real problem, the real issues in their lives. And that's when crutches become an issue. When we rely on the crutches to do the things in our lives that we need to take forth and stand on for ourselves. Those spiritual bones in our bodies that get broken, the weaknesses, the vulnerability, the cracks in our characters, that we start relying on other things. We start leaning on those crutches instead of trusting in what God has given us and teaching us to do. Teaching us to rely on Him. We'll use these other crutches in our lives just so we can get through, but then they become permanent. And if you ever known anyone that was in the hospital or had a broken leg, now I was fortunate enough every time that I was on crutches, I was young enough, they weren't going to hold me down. I think even the one time I broke it, the first time I was out square dancing with it, and so I wasn't going to lay around and just wait for 6 weeks. I couldn't do that. I still can't do that. But yet, even though they'll get through it, if we wait around and just sit there, what happens to our muscles? They become lazy. They become weak. They become not as useful. You know, when you don't use the muscles, trust me, at my age, when I do things I haven't done in a while, man, I find muscles I didn't even know I had because they become weak. You don't use them. And that's where crutches can become a hindrance instead of a help. Even in our spiritual lives, what are you trusting in God with? Are you reading God's Word daily? Or you think, no, I heard a sermon once this week. I can get by with that. That's good enough for me. 30-minute sermon, that was great. Maybe prayer time. God knows my heart. He knows what I need, so I don't need to go to Him. Maybe we don't come to the altar because, no, I got this. Or maybe we're relying on the doctors and not going to God first instead of coming to God first and saying, this is what I want you to do. To trust in Him, to believe in Him, and know that He is there for us and with us to help us with these crutches, with these problems. A lot of times God will take painful situations to help us grow us, to teach us, to show us what He wants us to become.